And we're back here at Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here with the MacDonald-Laurier Institute's Aaron Wudrick. He is the director of their domestic policy program, discussing an extensive survey that they did, as well as face-to-face discussions, focus groups with young people. So I kind of set the table a little bit. Please give us your thoughts on whether there is a racial divide in our country on some of these issues.
Yeah, the good news there, Tony, is we didn't see very much of that. The views of Canadians in terms of their level of pessimism or optimism was about the same, regardless of the racial group. So I think that's actually a good sign. It's not a good sign that there's that many people who have despair, but it is a good sign that it's not disproportionately, for example, visible minorities or vulnerable groups that feel this way. I would say, a consistently Canadian experience, regardless of the background of the young person.
And you may have mentioned this earlier, but was there a socioeconomic divide at all?
There was a little more hope amongst those who had higher incomes and higher education levels. That was positively correlated with optimism, but not as stark as you might think. I do think, I mean, you're mentioning too, we can get to talking about what policies we can do to try and address some of it. It does seem that education does provide some hope. Some of the respondents mentioned things about how university might not be for them. So I think that suggests there might need to be a conversation about education that's more than just university, whether that's colleges and trades and other forms of job training, that I think would help people feel that they would have a better shot at making it.
Yeah, it seems to me that it doesn't have to be university, but if there is a way to connect, okay, if I take this course or program or I'm enrolled in this, it means that I have more options, down the road. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. People had there was a positive correlation of hope if they had more education. Another thing that came up was work experience. Right, a lot of them. It was a matter of sort of getting on the right track, building experience, having confidence that experience would serve them well. Job insecurity was something that kept coming up as well. Even the folks who had jobs, they often had precarious jobs or gig economy work. And so while finding a job was not a real problem for most of the respondents, the idea of a career, of something that was going to sort of be sustaining for life, that was more seen as more out of reach.
Yeah, and was there any rural versus urban divide as well?
A little bit more positivity in urban areas, although the housing issue was stronger there as well, of course, because prices are higher. So you had a bit of a trade-off. The folks who lived in places further from a major city, they had less concern about housing, but more anxiety about sort of jobs and career path. And then it's the opposite with people who lived in urban areas.
Right. So how should politicians respond, do you think?
Well, I mean, we've talked about half the show about housing. That's definitely number one. We need to build more houses. This can't fall on any particular level of government. It has to be all hands on deck because, even broaching the idea of building more houses, some of these young people are so disillusioned. It's more sort of show don't tell. They've heard politicians talk about getting more housing built, but they're not seeing it. They don't seem to have a lot of confidence it's going to happen. So that, I think, overwhelmingly, if we can solve that issue and start to address the housing supply issue, I think that will go a long way. That is by far the single biggest issue here, sort of that's a cloud hanging over their heads.
And are they looking at any particular level of government for this, or just generally politicians and government?
Yeah, I didn't get that sense that a lot of them are not, steeped in sort of whether it's municipal, federal, provincial. All they know is there aren't enough houses, and all they know is recently they've started to hear people talk about housing, but they're not seeing any change, any significant change. So I think it will take a while. Of course, you can't build millions of houses overnight, but it would be interesting to follow up on this, whether it's ourselves or someone else in a couple of years, and see if measures that are taken to address housing are actually having any impact on their level of optimism.
You got about 30 seconds before the break. Did they talk about high rents as well?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of these folks are not in a position to buy right now, and so they are renters, and that is an equally a big concern. You can frame it as the cost of putting a roof over your head, whether that is renting or whether that is the
Okay,
cost
gotcha.
of a mortgage.
All right, we will continue our discussion with Aaron Wudrick. He is the Director of Domestic Policy at the MacDonald-Laurier Institute. Very interesting study on youth attitudes to the economy. We'll be back for another segment after this break. Please stay with us.